So, we talked about this on Friday. The absolute value of that A value of your equation is your amplitude, correct? So if I had a graph and they asked me for the A value of my equation, it would be the absolute value. It would be my amplitude, right? So my A could actually be plus or minus the amplitude. Now, the D is your midline. The D is your median value, so if it's like 7, that would be the median value. And your midline is y equals D. So you know how much work we had to do to get our amplitude? Well, it's just the A off the equation. And the work we had to do our midline, it's just the D. So we went through and we did the amplitude was 3. Here I want the median value for 5 and 6, I want the midline. So let's talk about it. So for 5, my median value, this is my A, this is what's in front of my X is my B. Remember my equation is this, y equals A sine bx plus C plus D. We agree? So this is my A. My B is 1. My C would be 0. B. My C would be 0, and then this would be my D, correct? So whatever outside the brackets at the back is your D. So my median value would be 2. And my midline would be y equals 2. So it does matter what they ask for. This is the median value. It's just the value of D. And this is the midline. So it has to be an equation because it is a midline, which is y equals 2. See the difference? Now we're going to flip ahead. Okay, what's the number at the back for this one? It's a plus 0. So what is my median value? My median value equals 0. We agree? Then I have midline. My midline is what? Y equals what?
2.
Midline. 0. It's just the back number. It's your D. What's your D for this one? Your D on this one is -7. So my median value, is equal to -7. My midline is what? Y equals -7. I want you to do this one. Go. So what's the median value for this one? It equals 4. And the midline, y equals 4. All right? Make sense? So the amplitude is the absolute value of the A. The midline is the D. What else does it give me? Let's go back. So, B is not period, because period starts with a P, correct? B is the period. The period is not real, I made it up. But the period does not say period, therefore the B is not the period. We agree? Now there's this great thing on your formula. It actually gives you this. This is a formula on your formula sheet. It says period is 2 pi over B. Look, there are 2 equations on your formula sheet for sinusoidal. That's it. Period equals 2 pi over B, and then above it, it shows you where B is. Pretty easy, right? It literally shows you where the B is in the equation. It's between the bracket and the X, and then here it tells you the period is 2 pi divided by that. It's a formula on your formula sheet, right? So it gives you this formula above it, and then it says, it's 2 pi divided by B. Like, it literally shows it to you. Isn't that nice? All right. So 2 is the B value, 3 is the period. So what's the B value of this one? It's just a 1. And the period is 2 pi divided by B. I don't know why I just short formed that. One second. So the period is 2 pi divided by B, and B is 1, right? So it's 2 pi divided by 1. So it's just 2 pi. So this thing repeats itself every 2 pi. Remember how we found the period on the graphs? How long it took to repeat itself? Well, this is easier to find. You literally just do 2 pi divided by the B value that's given to you. Okay? So number 2 is going to be the B value. Number 3 is going to be the period. Okay. So number 2, what's my B value? B equals -6, 2, -3, or 0. 2. B is always what's between the bracket and the x, right? It shows it on the formula sheet. So B equals 2. So the period equals 2 pi divided by B. That's on my formula sheet. What's B in this case? 2. The 2's cancel, and the period is pi. You try 3 and 4. Go. Confusion. So B is what on this one? 0.25. We agree? The period is 2 pi divided by 0.25. Now, if you want to reduce it or make it a nicer fraction, you can't put the pi in. Because the pi is a non-terminating, non-repeating decimal. That's what pi is. It's 3.14159. Some people have ridiculous amounts of decimals of pi memorized and have lost childhood memories. I swear to goodness. Okay. So that's cool. It doesn't repeat itself. So if you put it into your calculator and want to reduce the fraction, you can't put in the pi. So try this out. Go 2 divided by 0.25. Don't put the pi in. What do you get? 8. So what does this actually equal? 8 pi. Put the pi back. Just don't put it in when you're reducing it. Okay? Does that make sense? If you put it in, it just gives you this crazy decimal that will not work for you. No matter how much you hit math, enter, you're not getting something good out of it. Okay. Then 4. What is my B value? So it's between the bracket and the x. So B equals 5. And then the period is just 2 pi divided by 5. It's not going to get any better than that. Okay? And we're going to go back. Back to that equation spot. We have one last thing to discuss. Okay. The C. If there is a C, if the C exists, there's a horizontal phase shift. That's it. They're not going to ask about how much. They're not going to ask you what it's doing. They could just ask, is there a horizontal phase shift? So if there's a C, there is a horizontal phase shift. Bless you. And what does that mean? That means it just moves right or left. They won't ask by how much, it just would be, is there one? Okay? So if there is a C value, the graph is moved to the right or to the left. They aren't going to ask by how much. None of that. All right. So, does this one have a C value? Where does the C exist? The C exists between the X and the bracket. Is there anything between the X and the bracket here? So, it says, is there a horizontal phase shift? You're going to say, no. Nope. Yeah. So there is no C value, or the C value there is, I guess it would be 0. If your C value is 0, it didn't move. There is no phase shift. Okay, let's look here. Oh, sorry, let's get your here. Okay, is there a C? C falls in your brackets. It shows you on the equation, C falls between the X and the bracket. So is there something between the X and the bracket? Yes. So is there a horizontal phase shift? Yes. Okay. Not as loud as normal. I can't like do subtitles for it, so it's not nearly as bad as usual. All right, does this one have a C value? Yeah, it's +4. So is there a horizontal phase shift? Yes. What about this 4? Is there a horizontal phase shift? Yeah, there's a C value, so yes. Okay, I need you to grab out a separate sheet of paper. We're going to sum this all up. I'm going to give you some questions. So for all of these questions, I want the amplitude. I want the B value. I want the period. I want the median value. I want the midline. And I want if there is a horizontal phase shift. So that happened. Okay, and then B for this one is what? 0.25.
But you write it as a fraction.
You write it as a quarter, for sure. What's B on this one? Okay. I don't know. C is the period. How do I find the period? Nope. It's 2 pi divided by what? Which is? Pi. Okay. Period. I didn't say no to you. I said no to who we were talking. 2 pi divided by 0.25. What's this one going to be?
8 pi.
8 pi. This one? 2 pi divided by 3. All right. Now D. The median value. Do I need anything but just the number if I ask for the median value? No, just the number. What's the number? 6. The median value is the D. What's this one going to be? -4. What's this one going to be? -1/3. Then E is the midline. What's the difference between the median value and the midline? Y equals. It's a line. That's the only difference. So it'd be Y equals 6. Y equals -4. Y equals -1/3. Now what about F? Is there a horizontal phase shift on this one? No. No C value. What about this one? I have a C of 3, so yes. This one? I have a C of -4, so yes. That'd be cute. All right. Then we're going to flip over. Determining max and min. Determine the maximum and minimum domain and range. So, If you don't pay attention, you will not get this, and I'm not repeating it. So there's that. So we need to determine the max, min, domain, and range. So what I did here is I drew a fake midline. A midline that you could use for every single time, correct? The midline is in the very middle of the graph, is it not?
Yeah.
Do we agree?
Yeah.
Okay. So if this is in the very middle, what is this distance here? And what is this distance here? What are these? These are amplitudes, correct? And this here would be an amplitude, would it not?
Yeah.
Okay. So if I gave you, which I do, on every single equation, it's very easy to get the amplitude of the midline, is it not? The amplitude we figured out was the absolute value of A, the midline was the D value. So it is very easy to get them off of an equation, yes?
Yeah.
So if I want the maximum, if I give you the D, the midline, and I add the amplitude, I'll get my what? Max. And if I take the D and I subtract my amplitude, I'll get the what? Min. So, I always remind myself that it says the word da. It does not say the word add, like in mathematics. We don't go amplitude plus midline and amplitude minus midline. That makes no sense. We have to start at the midline and add to it our amplitude, and we'll get to our max. We take our midline and we subtract from it our amplitude, we'll get our min. We agree? Okay, so we're just going to find the maxes and mins of these ones. So we have to do the D plus the amplitude, the D minus the amplitude. Look, it's written right here. Maximum is D plus amplitude, minimum is D minus amplitude. So it's that midline. So if I take my midline, which is what? Which one of these is my midline? 2. I take my midline, my D, and I add to it my amplitude. D plus amplitude. What's my amplitude of this equation? 3. So what's the maximum of this one? 5. Now, say you mix them up. 2 plus 3 and 3 plus 2. Totally fine, correct?
Yeah.
Your minimum will be wrong, though. Because if you flip them around on the minimum, you are going to get a different answer. Like if I do 3 minus 2 or 2 minus 3, they're very different answers. So you have to do D, the midline, minus the amplitude, which gets me -1. Is that true? You cannot do amplitude minus midline. Yeah? Yeah. So we're going to go here. How do I get my maximum? What do? I do what? D plus amplitude, not A value, amplitude, right? Because A values can be negative, amplitude can't. So my maximum, what's my D on this equation?
0.
It's a plus 0. Yeah. So we do D plus amplitude. What's my amplitude? What's my amplitude? 6. And so I get 6. Minimum is D minus amplitude, which is 6, and I get -6. True? So that's my maximum, that's my minimum. 3 and 4, go. The maximum for this one, what do we add together? -7 plus 0.5, and I get -6.5. And then -7 minus 0.5, and we get -7.5. Number 4, your maximum is going to be D plus amplitude, so 4 plus 1/2, which is 4.5, and then 4 minus 1/2, which is 3.5. Okay. Then we're going to go back up to the top. Range is easy once you have your maxes and mins. We agree? If you know your max and your min, your range isn't that bad. So we're going to go to the top and we're going to write this down. The very top. The range is sandwiched between two values. We agree? So what you do when your range is sandwiched between two values is you treat the y like the cheese in the grilled cheese sandwich. So we're going to go y such that, and I'm going to put a y in my grilled cheese sandwich. That's the cheese. Now I need some bread. The bread is the min and the max. So on the left, I'll have the min. On the right, I'll have the max. And then you always read from the y. So this is greater than or equal to my min, greater than or less than or equal to my max. Do you see that they're in the same order, like the same look, the inequality sign? They are because you read from the y. So it's greater than or equal to the minimum and less than or equal to the maximum. What you need to remember is you go from min to max always is your bread, min to max. And then it's less than sign. So it's those slanted L's each time. You do slanted L's. So if you always go from min to max and do slanted L's, you'll get it right every single time. And then YER. Because we're saying y is greater than or equal to the minimum, y is less than or equal to the maximum. So that's why they're in the same direction. Well, I already have the mins and maxes. So should my range be hard to do now? No. So it's going to be y such that I need my cheese and I need my bread. What's my minimum going to be? What is my minimum? -1. What's my maximum? 5. And then I put in slanted L's. Do we agree? So the numbers are the bread, the y is the cheese. And you get YER. You do the next three.
Noah's line.
Range. So, what's this one going to be? Let's write it out properly. The range is always done terribly. So, we put a y, cheese, in the middle of our sandwich. -6, 6. Slanted L's, YER. Make sure yours is right. Y such that -7.5 is less than or equal to y is less than or equal to -6.5. Y is an element of the reals. No. And then y such that 3.5 is less than or equal to y is less than or equal to 4.5, YER. Now domain is the best. Sinusoidal graphs go like this. Forever. What's their domain going to be? XER. I know, thank you. It's true. I know, thanks. Thanks. Still not done your call. XER. When am I getting my Starbucks gift card? Your timeline is running out. Okay. Nope. Yep. X an element of the reals. I see Starbucks in my future, bought by Nolan for not finishing call on time.
How much money?
$500.
Yeah, it's gonna be a lot of drinking of coffee. It's gonna be great. I think it was $10. I might even get one. Yeah, I think it's 10. I might get one drink. Starbucks on.
20.
Was it 20?
Wow.
Mine's 10,
Yeah.
and yours is 20.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a bit of a ripoff.